we were always contentious from day one. And at that point, we weren't really friends. We were frenemies. I realized I can't do that. The reason why I can't do that is I'm competitive. I gotta win. I'm going to win. It's going to get personal. I'm going to knock your block off.
This is Caesar Walker, the cool, calm, collected one.
And I'm Walker and Gatrey, the emotional one.
And we are the Tipping Point Podcast, your source for the black male's perspective.
Tipping Point Podcast.
Many people listening may not be familiar with Desus and Mero, perhaps. I've got wind of them years ago. I know they came up through Twitter, but I got wind of them when they I heard them as guests on the Brilliant Idiots podcast with Charlamagne, Andrew Schultz. And I think they may have been on MTV's Guy Code at one point.
I read that in the article I sent y'all, so yeah,
okay.
I think you're right.
Okay. But they've had a major following. And they ended up having a talk show. They landed a talk show on Vice some years back.
Bodega Boys?
The Bodega Boys is a podcast.
Oh, okay.
That they have on top of that as well. But I can't think of the name. I guess it's Black. You can look it up for me because I got it here and whatnot. But they had a talk show on Vice, but then they recently moved to Showtime. And just doing exceptionally well. Had amazing guests. Like I think that was the thing that impressed me the most.
And I wasn't even like a huge follower, but I got a homeboy who watches a lot and he'll drop clips in our group me.
Yeah.
That was the majority. But yeah, I can speak on behalf of the guests they've had. Lord have mercy.
Because I don't follow, don't really follow them like that. But when I would check out their show for another reason that they had a guest on. And so, man, just blowing up, doing great things. But it was announced this week, if you're hearing this as the episode is being released, last week it was announced that I think it was supposed to be their 5th season of the show. Mm-hmm. They won't be returning for the 5th season. What's the name of the show, Black?
I think it's just Desus and Mero, late night talk show.
Okay, fair enough. They're not coming back. They're not coming back for their 5th season, and they won't be any more new episodes of Bodega Boys podcast. And they cited, and I'm using air quotes, creative differences as to why there won't be any more of them. They actually are going to be pursuing separate projects, I believe. And so what I thought was interesting about that, and what's led a lot of people to think that is more than just creative differences, is usually you will have creative differences on a project, not wholesale creative differences, right? Which leads to, there being particular fallout. And so I don't want to, we can give our initial reactions because I don't really want to focus on them as much. But we see this all the time with creatives, right? Just last year, we joked about it with our podcast, but we talked about Joe Budden and what happened there. And so there's other we see it with musicians. I think allegedly the Migos.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Allegedly.
Okay.
I Am Athlete.
I Am Athlete.
Pivot, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like these things happen, and I'll go first. I know that I'm breaking the pattern, but just to get y'all's initial thoughts on this, because I think the biggest disappointment to me about this is, as a content creator myself, there's an envy of the success those two guys had. The meteoric rise, it seemed. You would think that with the success they're having together, that whatever differences you had, you could at least put that aside. You can understand if things aren't going well, frustrations, tensions building. All right, y'all fighting about that. But it just disappoints me to see these podcasts or artists almost at the peak of their success fall apart. And it just makes you wonder what more could they've accomplished together if they had worked through their differences. And it's just disappointing to see in that regard. You know, again, I hope the best for them. You know, I know they're going to do well because they're incredibly talented, but together, man, they were a force. So whatever issue it was that caused them to walk away from that, I can only imagine. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something small or minuscule, but yeah, those are just my initial thoughts. What about you, man? What do you think about that?
I agree. I'm just gonna get right into it. The interesting thing is, you and I have even had our creative differences.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, have there been times I've been like, you know what? Y'all can take this podcast and shove it? Absolutely. But you know,
You?
yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, and the thing is, Walker has to deal with my emotional self, even off camera, off mic, which unfiltered is a totally different beast. But and I thank you for being patient with me.
It's going both ways, but we'll more on that later.
Yeah. Well, the thing for me is that if I could ask Desus and Mero, would be, did you both have a goal or a vision when this came together? And if you did, is this creative difference that big to make you want to step away from that? Because I will say, for me, when I go through those times of like, you know, maybe I don't want to do this, the thing I'm reminded of, and I even wrote it down, the thing I'm reminded of is like, I know our vision has taken turns.
Still shaping it.
Still shaping it over the course of the almost 5 years we've been doing this. Yeah. But I just know at the nature of what we're trying to do, I'm still bought into that. Yeah. And I believe in my heart that I can't do that without you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So when I do level out, when my emotions do cool off, and I'm able to process things effectively, that is one of the things that I look forward to, or that's one of the things I'm intentional about checking in with. Okay, Ronnie, what's the vision? Mm-hmm. What were you and Walker meeting at Starbucks for? What were y'all talking about?
It's good, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that mindset helps me refocus. What's the term? I'm not gonna remember the term, so I'm just gonna butcher it. But it helps me to refocus. It helps me to take the emphasis off of myself and be less selfish. Be like, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah. That's just my take on it.
No, I think that's good, man. Like that, getting back to the bottom line, like why were we doing this to begin with, and have we lost sight of that?
Right.
Why do you think? Because the impression I get is that this wasn't like, this seemed, things like this, especially when I think about what happened with Joe Budden. These situations were situations that were brewing. It wasn't like it was a one-time thing, right, and everyone just knocked everyone out and everyone just scattered, right? This is something that was just slowly growing, tension slowly building, and it just came to an explosive head and just, you know what I mean? I just want to just ask you, like, how does that, we know how it happens, but what are some reasons for why we just don't nip it in the bud the moment it happens? Okay.
I got to say pride is one of the biggest things.
Okay.
Ego and pride are cousins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are two off the top of my head. If I need to go in depth, I can.
No, I agree with what you said, ego and pride, and probably also people, like they may have their own group of people telling them things, and again, like outside influences tell him like, hey, you should be the star, or this other guy's like, you should be the star, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I think what you said, main thing's probably ego and pride.
Right.
That happens with a lot of groups, for sure. Especially when money's involved.
Yeah.
And what's so unfortunate about that is like, in so many cases, to Black's point, the person's not even thinking like that.
Right.
It's the voices and the noise that plants the seed, and it's almost like a confirmation bias, so to speak. Something to happen, and it'll confirm that thought, even though you were never thinking it, and you probably wouldn't have even thought about it had the seed not been planted, and it just begins to fester and grow. It begins to fester and grow. So that's good. Pride, ego, good ones. Here's what I thought about. I was talking to my sister because she was like, what y'all gonna talk about? And she actually mentioned what you mentioned, Black, about voices. Something that I thought about is denial.
Which I'm definitely guilty of.
Sometimes I think, especially amongst men.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm thinking about, man, how does this fit with our conversation with men? I think oftentimes with men, we can be in a bit of denial. And what we tend to do, what I'm guilty of is, oh, that's just Gat. You know what I mean? It's just Gat. I mean, we all right. You know what I mean? And so when that happens, okay, we need to talk. We really need to talk about this. But he didn't seem too shook up about it. You know, and it's probably not that big of a deal.
Because I'm being petty.
No. I'm thinking from my vantage point.
Oh.
I'm thinking from my vantage point. I'm like, we ain't gonna fall out over this. I mean, we'll be all right.
Right.
You know what I mean? It'll blow over.
It'll blow over.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a denial that, bro, you felt what you felt. He felt what he felt. Right? I don't think, because if anything, the next time it happens, you're only going to pick up from where you left off.
True.
Right?
That's a fact, yeah.
So it's like, do you really want to ignore that? Should we ignore that?
Right.
You know? And so I think that happens with guys. And I don't know about you, but I have this bad habit of rehearsing stuff in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe just me.
No. I don't know if I do it often, but I have done it before, yeah.
And that's terrible because I'll relive the whole thing and will get mad again almost, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why am if I'm doing that, why am I ignoring it when we get around each other?
Right.
And again, applying that to these situations where people have just decide. And what the crazy thing about these things is that they happen in private for the most part.
Yeah.
They don't happen publicly. That's why people are so distraught with when these situations occur, right?
Right.
Most of the time they happen in private. And so it's even more tempting to ignore it because we're not forced to address it because it didn't happen publicly. Right?
Right.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, if I'm okay to do this, just looking at our own selves, like
I'm gonna talk a lot about us.
Okay,
so you good?
Our biggest differences have happened in private.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
they've happened on camera too.
we've had some on camera,
and one we didn't air at all.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. I thought about another.
Take it away.
I thought about another reason that could lead to this. And I think it's kind of denial in a sense, but not only that, but being able to understand that you're wrong and acknowledge that. Because I know on that episode that y'all never see or hear, I was wrong, right? And it took a series of events. It took you and I talking about it, right? Replaying it. What does that look for, Black?
Nothing.
Okay. It's replaying it and just really taking I mean, you were so patient with me, but just going piece by piece. Hey man, look, this is where I blew up. And here's what led to this. I feel this way.
This was the next day.
Right.
The next day we talked.
You listened, you heard me out. Then I got to reciprocate. I got to push the mic to you, and I got to listen.
Yeah.
So, what is it? What is it that I don't know what you call that, but I think that's a big factor, in that works against us as men. I think that takes a lot of strength. I think that takes a lot of courage. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness.
Yes.
And I feel like, generally speaking, a lot of men may struggle with that. I know I struggle with it when I'm in the thick of it.
Well,
but if I could, Walker, one of the things, and I haven't even shared this with you, this thought just came up. But one of the things I remember in my own reflection after that conversation, went back to the purpose. Mm-hmm. Like, we're reshaping it now.
Yeah.
But in terms of like really trying to do our best to make men better.
Yeah.
Dude, I have to think about that.
And we talked about that.
Did we talk about it?
We talked about that during our conversation, like our come to Jesus at the end. Like we got back to purpose of it.
Yeah. And so for me, going back to like reassessing the vision, if I'm gonna be a part of this, I gotta act that out too. So when there's an opportunity for me to be better, what I look like acting a donkey?
Well, yeah. Same. Listen. We both would have looked bad,
right?
Like
right.
I was better on that episode.
Yeah,
but it would have been it would have given, for where we are now, it would have been a black eye for us.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And credit to Black for even mentioning, because I was in a lot of places emotionally that night, because I just didn't, after what happened, I was like, I can't. I'll be honest, I wasn't high on that episode even before that happened.
Oh wow, okay.
I wasn't high on it even then. It was just, it felt off to me. But when that happened, I was like, I don't know how on God's green earth I would have the peace for this to come out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Easily would have been my worst. I would have hated that episode.
Oh
wow. I think another thing too, Gatrey, when we ignore things, if we be honest, there's a fear there.
Yes. Come on, Walker.
There's a fear. And I think it gets deep when you start talking about your upbringing, how you address conflict, were you able to speak your mind in your household? You know, if you struggle with rejection, there's different factors to that. Abandonment, you're afraid you'll push people away if you speak your mind. Like there's a lot of factors that go into why we just say, you know what, it'll blow over. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, I don't want to deal. You know what I mean? And so I think there's a fear there too, because also fear of the unknown. What's going to happen if I tell this dude what's bothering me?
Now that's me.
You know what I'm saying? What's going to happen here? And I think what we end up doing is we end up stalling the progress of the relationship when we do that. And for me, it's, again, I don't have a problem. I don't struggle with that, obviously. But I think the reason why a lot of men struggle with it, and sometimes why I can be a bit apprehensive, is I don't know what to do with this. And there's been times I was like, I don't know. That night,
yeah,
I didn't know what to do.
Right.
When it went left,
you threw your arms
I just got out of I got out of there. Now, old Walker would oh yeah?
Right.
But that was one of the times where I was trying to make a pivot. More on that later. I was trying to make a shift, because the best thing that can happen to me, Gatrey, is this shift. because it's forcing me to really look at myself, right? And I don't want to be, I'm okay with being flawed because I am, but what I don't want to be is a hypocrite. I'm okay with being flawed. You can see anyone who does a podcast every week, you're going to see and hear flaws, right? Just the virtue of just getting in front of cameras and on mics and just talking for almost an hour and a half on end every episode.
2 hours.
Who's thanks, Black? Yeah, but who's yeah, right? Him. Who's this guy again? but you're gonna see and hear flaws, and I have to come to terms with that. You've said a lot. You've owned some stuff. I need to own some stuff. I went further back, Gatrey. I went back to the nature when we first met. When we first met, we always had this contentious dynamic with us. Well, before I go there, I'll pick that back up. When I talked to you, I told you that when we would plan, because this is also a flaw in how we did our podcast, I didn't talk to you about where we were going with the show. Because I used to do that. We would brainstorm and we would almost have a podcast over the phone.
Yes.
And then when we get here,
some good conversations too.
And then when we get here, Gatrey would be lifeless. And I for the life of me, I couldn't understand how he couldn't turn this on. But
no lies told, folks.
I could are you serious right now? Like, where's the same dude who was turned up when we were bringing up these points? Gatrey was like, yeah. Gatrey would get on, completely did 180. We'll get here and Gatrey be like, yeah, I get you. What took 40 minutes to talk about over the phone lasted 5 minutes. I was like, I can't talk to him. We can't talk about this. But what ended up happening is I ended up trying to manipulate the conversation because you didn't know where I was trying to go with the conversation, but you would say something and it would take us completely left, and I'd be trying to force you back. And I was like, that's just terrible, a flawed plan on my and I don't know if I apologize to you for that.
You did.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I couldn't
the kind
remember.
of guy you are, so yeah.
I couldn't remember, but I apologized to you. And I was like, dude, my bad for that. We just got to come up with a better way of how we prep for our shows. And so we talk now. We talk more about, hey, here's some things to be thinking about, da-da-da-da. So, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I thought about how we met. And most people don't get this. I didn't think about it until I really began to evaluate me. I'm not even talking about Gatrey anymore. We were always contentious from day one. We always debated each other from day one. And at that point, we weren't really friends.
Oh, yeah. I consider you then.
We were frenemies. We were frenemies.
Yes, that's it.
We were frenemies.
Yes.
So if you're listening to us, you're hearing how we used to talk. I'll never forget, man. I'll never forget when I got into network marketing, and I was telling you about the company. I was just it was a protein shake. Black.
I'm so embarrassed.
Black. You would have thought Gatrey, you would have thought I was selling Gatrey poison. Snake oil. Gatrey laid into me, and I just had to get up and walk out of his cube. I was like, okay. Like, Gatrey was always on the defense with me. And because more times often than not, I ended up being right and he was wrong, I loved coming around and messing with Gatrey. So here's something about me. When it comes to debating, Like, I think we talked to, shout out to Drew. Drew still listens. Like,
Oh, for real?
yeah.
Okay.
Drew rocking with it.
Yeah.
What's up, Drew? We will meet with Drew when we was trying to get some things going branding wise with the podcast. And Drew was like, people love to see people argue. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. All you got to do is look at some of the debate shows on online, TV, whatnot. People tune in, especially when it gets spirited. I realized I can't do that. I realize I can't do that. The reason why I can't do that is I'm competitive. I got to win. I'm going to win. Right? And what happened, that's really good if it works well if you're not really close friends. This is why in sports, with people who are friends who play on opposite teams, let's say it's a big game coming up, they don't talk to each other for like a month, 2 weeks before the game, 2 weeks after the game. Like we can't talk to each other because of the competitiveness about it. Like, it's going to get personal. It's going to get real, right? If it's football, I'm going to knock your block off. If it's basketball, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like we can't. I got to go somewhere else in my mind. You're the enemy. We will revisit this a month later, right? I get that because I'll get tunnel vision when it gets to debate time. I'm finna prove you wrong, baby. And that's always been the competitiveness in me. That worked when we were coworkers because that was our relationship. Now we're really close friends.
Right.
That doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. Like, and here's the deal. Because I would get frustrated. Here's why I would get frustrated with you about. I'd be like, dang, this dude's so sensitive, yo. Like, I'd just be thinking out loud to myself, like, God dang, he's so sensitive. But here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. Yes, you're sensitive. You say it every week. You're the emotional one. I mean, it was right there on the fine print when I signed up to be your friend. Okay. So if I'm going to be this guy's friend, I already know this dude is sensitive. Why am I acting surprised? And if I'm going to be this dude's friend, I have to respect that. Now, I can call him out at times, which I do.
Sure.
But I have to respect the fact that this dude, I have to be mindful of areas where he's sensitive. So when you told me what was bothering you, I had to sit there and listen. Because this is my friend talking to me.
How many times did you put me on mute?
You don't want to know. You don't. But I'm like, this is my, and I care about this dude. Right. So obviously he's somewhere, like he went somewhere where he didn't want to go. Fair enough. Okay. Because again, I keep going till I win. Like, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can tear you to pieces, but I won. But I realize I don't do that with my wife. I don't do that with, you know what I'm saying? Right. I think about people who I care about, and I'm like, I don't do that with them. But I think about, okay, me and Gatrey are in a different space. So the way we used to interact, especially now that we're in this space, doesn't work. Now, does that mean that we're going to be an echo chamber? And we no.
Some things.
Well, if we agree,
right.
And one of the things I told you, I didn't tell this to Black. Black didn't. I said, listen, can I share this with?
Sure.
I was like, listen. We joke about, we used to call you Derek Jackson 2.0, right? Go Derek Jackson. But I was saying, listen, Gat, have your opinion, but at least be mindful of how the majority of men think.
Right. And I was lacking in that arena.
But just be mindful.
Right.
You ain't gotta, if you don't agree, don't agree. But at least know that, hey, I know men may have a problem with this. I get that. But this is, you know what I'm saying? Like, be mindful of that. if you have an opinion and you think it may be a little, like, research why men think differently. You ain't got to change your mind, but at least know that that opinion's out there. Because I just don't want to, I think you have so much to offer. Like, you have a great perspective in terms of manhood, an awesome perspective. And I understand how Black, we watch content on YouTube. We see the comments. Man, you ain't got but one shot with folk. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't want, and that's a part of me being protective of you in that regard. But again, it has led to us butting heads because I'm trying to protect you. And I don't have to do that. I can talk to you offline. You get it. But my thing is that, dude, I don't have to compete with my friend. I don't have to beat up on my friend. I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you feel differently, and what I realize is, man, I can learn from you. I can learn your point of view. You say some things, I'm like, I don't give you enough credit for saying things right as I feel I should. You know what I mean? And so when you say something, you're like, man, that's good. Like, that's. But if we agree, I have plotted out a plan of how to address when we don't agree. There's a way to do it.
Right.
And I think if anything, man, if I can't show men, if I can't respect you, because in the end of the day, it boils down to respect. If I can't respect you and your POV, even if I don't agree with it, I can't tell men how to respect other men. And so that was some soul searching I had to kind of do leading up to this conversation. Is I had to go back to, like, okay, how did I get here with him? How did I get here? And so, and even then, when we started the podcast, we wanted to get into the banter of how we used to. And I think remnants of that remained even up until this year.
Right.
And so I realized, like, man, we're not the same guys that we were when we were co-workers.
Thank God.
We're not the same guys that we were. And it's okay to change. It's okay to be different. And it's okay to be mindful that, okay, there's a certain way I move with my friends that I call him my friend, but I don't move that way. So my apologies to you if I've been disrespectful, or if I've been, you can see that competitive spirit rear up in me that I'm just going to prove you wrong. My apologies for that, because I think there's a space for all of our perspectives to exist on this platform, even if we don't agree with each other.
Right.
Because I think regardless of who says what, you're going to find someone who's going to share your opinion. You're going to find some people who don't agree with your opinion. That's just where we are now,
right,
in the information age. And so I think with us, man, just realizing where we are, it's allowed me to do a lot of evaluation on me. And again, like I said, I don't mind being flawed. I just don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm okay with being flawed, because we're all flawed.
Right.
Okay. So, and I can learn from Black. I can learn from Gat. I can learn from whoever guests we bring on here. I want to learn and grow. And so, yeah, that's really my take on that. And again, I don't know how long we're gonna be doing. I know you said this is. I know you said a few weeks ago you was like, what was what?
That was a morbid outlook.
It was, but But at the end of the day, I think learning how to address our issues, because at the end of the day, when it happens, I'm like, all right, let's talk. And I think that's the one thing that I think helps you, is that I'm willing to have the conversation.
100%.
Most people don't see that part afterwards, because again, when we talk offline, I'm not competing. I'm a friend.
Yeah.
That's how I figured it out. I was like,
Interesting.
I'm not competing. I'm now a concerned friend.
Yeah.
So now I listen. All right. That can translate to the pod some.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, man, I just think that that's missing with a lot of us. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the people get to, it looks like total prosperity, man, with their content and what they're doing. And all of a sudden they just, it goes to hell.
Yeah.
And I think those are just things that, to your point, you mentioned pride. It was all the things we talked about. It's pride, ego, people in their ear, gassing them up. It's all of that. And so I think to drown out a lot of noise, that's where I was like, look, talk to me. What are you feeling?
Right.
What's going on with you? How do you feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I try to bring to you how I'm feeling. That's it.
That formula, I'm biased just because I've seen it work so many times in the time we've been podcasting. But hot take, I believe that formula is the antidote to creative differences separating whatever team.
Formula being
like talking, knowing the vision.
Yeah.
Knowing that this gentleman across from me has got my best interest at heart, even if we disagree on something.
Right.
Even if it takes me out of a healthy space.
Right.
I got to remember this dude has been in my corner.
Right.
Speaking of you, for me, like I've already said, like you've helped me out tremendously, like off pod stuff, like personally, like you care about me.
Yeah.
So like thinking about that, it's going to have to be something different than a creative difference.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It'd have to be a total lapse in character.
Right.
Or something to like really.
Which I don't even foresee that.
No, I don't. I mean, again, I'm not perfect, but at the same time, like it wouldn't be nothing malicious. It's not
Walker,
malicious.
We also have a deal of accountability to one another, I should say. That's an important factor. Just
what we're doing now.
Yeah. Just in manhood alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Black is quiet.
He hadn't said anything. He's been in the middle of so many disagreements. I'd love to hear his viewpoint.
What do you mean by the middle?
Rephrase that. He's witnessed so many disagreements.
That is so. Yeah, he stayed out. He stayed out of most of them.
Well played, sir.
He stayed out of it, but yeah, he's watched it. But he was there again. He was there when we used to have these spirited. Yeah. Like he's seen the origins of that.
He was there. Black? He was there with the popcorn though. His intentions were even different at the time.
Oh yeah,
he was there for the spice.
Now he's like, oh my God.
How did I ever put up with this? And why did I voluntarily put up with this?
Yeah, it's just,
it's growth.
You grow.
It's growth, man. Grow. I don't know how old Desus and Mero are.
They're younger than us, I think.
Are they really? So my thought is maybe this could present a life lesson.
It
for
does.
Whatever reason they split. Like for whatever reason. That part's not important.
Well, if anything, here's the thing. Here's what I want selfishly for them. We don't have, people go different ways. There's always a season. I'm okay with you pursuing different projects with other people, doing different stuff. Because at the end of the day, man, if I care about you, I want you to win.
Yeah.
But what I want for them is to do what we've done and get back to square one. We don't have to ever do another show. I just want us to be brothers. The brothers that they've been for 10 years, I want them to go back to being that.
Yeah.
Cuz you don't have that type of success and do what they've done without having some sort of a brotherhood with one another. If they can get back there, they don't have to ever do another show as far as I'm concerned.
True.
To me, I think that's the most disappointing part of it. Is will they ever speak again? Will they ever be? You know what I'm saying?
Surely they will. I'm being optimistic. You hope. I'm being optimistic.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hope, right? But sometimes people don't.
Yeah.
Look at Jay-Z and Dame. Gee whiz. There's some people who fell out, bro. They fell out, and that's egos Those are two of the biggest egos you will ever find on this planet, right? With people in their ear, ignoring stuff for all this. They ain't ignoring it now. Now that things, money got in the way and whatnot. Dame has no problem talking about it now. But a lot of stuff was being ignored. You know how to do it. You know how to address it. You know how to handle it. You don't want to seem weak. You don't want to, you know what I mean? It's so much stuff that we deal with as men in conflict. And I think oftentimes, man, we end up, for the sake of posturing, we'll tear each other to bits. And
they're your age.
Are they?
Really?
41 and 39.
Shut up. I thought they were younger than us.
I thought so too.
Yikes. Who's older? Curious.
Desus.
Huh.
He's 41 and Mero is 39.
Wow.
That's shocking.
Right. We right in the, well, yeah, I'm right in the middle. Yeah. You almost there. Wait for it. But oh boy.
Always.
Oh boy. And I can't wait either.
I know you on deck. I know you were on deck.
I already got him queued up, buddy. But yeah, man, I didn't know if you had any more thoughts you want to say about that. Black, anything?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. And it was so unfortunate that these things will continue to happen.
Yeah.
You just, again, you just hope that we can get to a space where it goes back to kind of what you talked about when you asked for advice about marriage or whatnot. Sit down and have a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just talk. And, when I listen to you, I don't listen to respond, especially when we get into those, when something's wrong.
That used to be our MO.
Yeah, man. Like I'm really trying to understand. And that's what happened that episode. I was trying to understand. I wasn't getting there, but I was trying to understand. And even with that, I always evaluate myself. What can I've said better? So there was times, man, different podcasts, I would be like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? And there have been times, dude, I couldn't get through the end of the episode.
I'm the same.
Oh my God.
I coach myself after the fact. Like, Ronnie, really?
I get so disgusted, and it don't be nothing with you. It be something I did. I was like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, again, it's a growing process, but I think having this conversation is just more of the evolution of where we're going, where we can have civil disagreements with one another, but actually be challenged. And I think that's where I'm aspiring to be. I want to be challenged in a way because I got blind spots just like the next person. And I may not be seeing, there's people with all types of experiences that are different from mine, and so I have to be open to that. And yeah, man, I'm excited about where we're going as a podcast, but I really wish for the Desus and Meros of the world that they can restore whatever it was that brought them together in the first place.
Keep Your Point Podcast.